Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Have a sip of my coffee? Can I have a second, please? The man enjoy his coffee for a quick second before the show starts. What's going on, everybody? Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Hopefully a nice weekend for everybody. Busy weekend, ready to go on this Monday. Got a lot of good topics we got waiting for everybody. Hopefully a lot of comments today that we could react to as well. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. No game for the Lakers tonight. But again, I think they go 6 games in 8 nights. 6 games in 8 nights for the Lakers. Obviously a lot of stuff around the NBA as well. We're in March here, guys. This is it. This is the final full month in the NBA before we get to April, and then obviously playoffs start and everything else. A lot of stuff cooking around Lakers basketball. All right, I'm going to give everyone a quick rundown of what we got going on for the show today. If you guys don't mind, please subscribe to the channel. Shout out to AM570, who we are using their YouTube this morning as well. Rest of the season, I think you're going to see more integration with iHeart and AM570. So looking forward to that. We'll be using some of their different platforms. They'll be picking up our show. They'll be picking up some of our post-game content as well. So thank you for being here, however you're here. Whether you're here through us or here through AM570, welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome. All right, here's what we got going on for the show today. I got this full breakdown right here for everybody. Back-to-back wins for the Lakers. Can you have 2 games that are so meaningless but also so meaningful? I think that was the weekend for the Lakers. They play 2 teams that they're supposed to win by 20 to 30 points, and they did that. And for a team that's been struggling like the Lakers have, you take it. No complaints here. I'm being honest with you. No complaints here. They did literally did exactly what they're supposed to do. But it also, doesn't mean all that much. But it also means so much. Can the Lakers change the narrative? Got some sound here I want to play from JJ Redick, talking about the Lakers, where they are, where they're sitting. Guys, they got some badass matchups in the month of March. They also got some awful matchups in the month of March. But the changing the narrative, because here's what I think every Laker fan is going to say, or even every NBA fan out there. They're always going to say one thing about the Lakers. Yeah, but can you beat a good team? Yeah, but can you have some impressive wins? Yeah, can you go through a stretch where you're beating teams that are above 500? And so far for the Lakers, they obviously have not been able to do that consistently. But they can still change that narrative. There is still a world where they could change that narrative, and it's going to happen in the month of March because one of 2 things are going to happen. They're going to keep losing to good teams, or they're going to start stacking up some impressive W's, and maybe the narrative changes a little bit. I don't think it's funny. The standings to me mean less than who they're beating. And if they're 5th in the standings, but all of a sudden they beat some really good teams in the month of March and that half month of April that you have, then it's potentially a different conversation. There's some video that came out. I referenced it on Saturday night. I was listening to the Lakers and the Warriors, and the broadcast, I was listening to the road radio broadcast. So this was the Golden State Warriors, their broadcast. And they had mentioned that Luka was checking out, kind of ignored JJ Redick, then went to the sidelines. And again, they kind of ignored each other. To be honest, I don't really make anything of it. But when the game ended, nobody mentioned anything about it. There was no video about it. And this was kind of shocking because ESPN was carrying the broadcast. Listen, if ESPN's got that, if they got that angle, ESPN's going to air that 38 times, they're going to look for some kind of drama, especially because there's no drama in that game. I'll play that video. Again, this is somebody that is just taking the video on their phone. Is it something? Is it not something? I don't know. I kind of lean towards it's not something, but I'll play that video for everybody. Deandre Ayton, I don't think has been talked about more over these last 4 or 5 days than any part of time that he's been a Laker. And unfortunately, it's been a lot of negative stuff around Deandre Ayton. Austin Reaves, who you guys remember was in the league for a long time, I thought he had kind of a cool message for Deandre Ayton. Kind of a different angle on Deandre Ayton and just how we've talked about how the Lakers can change their narrative. Deandre Ayton still has a little time to change his narrative. Now, how much confidence you have of that actually happening? Probably not a lot. I think most people are looking at DeAndre Ayton at this point, and they're more frustrated with him than, oh my God, there's some hope here. But I will play that because I think he had a little bit different of a message here. We'll talk about Austin Reaves. His stats are interesting here, before his injury and after his injury. The amount of shot attempts he used to take, the amount of shot attempts he's taken now. Is he sacrificing too much? Is it what's happening with Austin Reaves? But he has not been the same player. Spent a little time on Reaves. I think I want to give a little bit of love to Luke Kennard. I think Luke Kennard was a wildly, wildly good pickup for the Lakers and continues to kind of go under the radar of what he's been able to do. And then we got some NBA news, do a little weekend recap, and then we'll call it a day. So no show tonight, obviously. Lakers got the Pelicans tomorrow. So today is going to be one of those days where we got the show. We'll throw everything in there, and then we'll come back and see you guys tomorrow. All right, let me get a little coffee here. Give me a second here. It's a busy weekend. This coffee is very critical this morning. It's very critical. All right, let's take a look at a couple of comments before we get started. Sliwa drinking that coffee with 3 shots. If you're talking about 3 shots of espresso, then we're on the same page. If you're talking alcohol and liquor, 3 shots, I'd be laying on the ground. I'd be done for a week and a half. Just can't take them back like we used to. I don't think I ever was able to really take. No, SDSU, San Diego State days. I was in my prime right there. My liquor consumption. All right, let's not talk about liquor at 8:07. Sounds disgusting. Can tell they got complacent when they were winning, and there was still a lack of effort on defense. Glad for the hustlers, specifically Marcus Smart, goes all out regardless of the score. Yeah, Marcus Smart, I've had no problem with Marcus Smart all season long, to be honest with you. I mean, there's some times the guy will take threes. You're like, why are you taking so many threes? There's some areas of his game, but I think Marcus Smart is a player that you got to have, certainly got to have in the playoffs if they're able to win one round. That's the bar right now, by the way. People ask me about, hey, what expectations, playoffs, this, win one round. That's the bar that I'm at right now. And whether people are disappointed by that or not, I think there's some real truth to that. We are nearing the end of the season. What you have is what you get. Probably not wrong there. Let's see what we got here. JJ isn't authoritarian figure to Luka. He's a peer. Glad JJ holding him accountable. Of course, Allen, you don't care because if it was LeBron ignoring JJ, you'd be pissed. I don't even know what to do with that. I feel like sometimes people just create a narrative that I'm not even aware of. See, we always hating on LeBron. And then the next comment. So a quick glazing Braun. I'm like, I don't even know what. I don't know what to say. I'm not 100% sure. Still got a lot of work to do. Glad for the win, by the way. All right, let's get the show started. Appreciate you guys being here. Shout out to everybody here in the chat. Thank you to everybody being a part of the show. I will see you, obviously, tomorrow, or not tomorrow. Obviously, we'll come back to some of these comments in a little bit, so we'll do that. It's my favorite. It's actually one of my favorite things to do when we sit here on here. Reading the comments, sometimes there's times where people say stuff, and I'm like, I don't even remember ever saying that, but if that's what we're going to run with, we'll run with it. All right, so back-to-back wins. So Lakers, I mean, talk about flexing your muscle this weekend. Talk about the narrative changing about the Lakers that quick. It changed that quick. You beat the Warriors without Steph and Porzingis and Jimmy Butler. You beat the Sacramento Kings, who are executing the tank job. I mean, if you want to write a book about how to tank, go look at the Sacramento Kings. They're doing it right. It's funny. I'm going to say this again because it's the best way for me to describe these 2 wins they had on Saturday and Sunday. Which, by the way, I saw a stat on here, which I think says a little bit something. Lakers hadn't had consecutive double-digit wins since November 28th and November 30th. So it's been that long, beginning of the season, within, let's call it the first month and change of the season. That was the last time the Lakers had back-to-back wins. They beat Dallas, they beat New Orleans, and again, two teams that are not in the playoff picture. But that's the last time they've had back-to-back double-digit wins. Here's what's funny about the two games. The games will not change anything for anybody's mind. Nobody's going to look at the Lakers differently because they blew out the Warriors and they blew out the Kings. So the games genuinely, there's nothing to be excited about. They're meaningless wins. But for the Lakers, they mean something. So wait, how can you say you have two meaningless wins, but then say they're actually meaningful in the same sentence? Guys, the Lakers have been struggling. You know, they just need some kind of positive momentum. They need anybody to talk positively about the Lakers right now. They need the narrative for at least a couple of days to just change, and they'll have an opportunity to do that tomorrow again. By the way, I think tomorrow's matchup will be a little bit more difficult. I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park the way these last two games were. We'll see what eventually happens. But and they play the Pelicans tomorrow. We'll see if Zion goes or if he doesn't. Zion did not play yesterday when I think they played the Clippers, if I'm right. But when I say they're meaningful games, but they're also meaningless games, but they're also meaningful for the Lakers, just think about last week and the narrative around Lakers basketball. Sky is falling. What is this team doing? They're falling apart. Deandre Ayton's calling out Clint Capela. Every single angle that you could think of. How you losing to Phoenix? You lost against Orlando. Boston blows you out on national television. I mean, this was just since the All-Star break. It's like they take a deep breath, they come back, and the sky is falling. By the way, my narrative was the same way. I did think the sky was falling. I did think the Lakers have kind of convinced people. If you thought, well, you know what, they're going to get to the second round. By the time, you were done watching them last week, you're like, yeah, they ain't getting out of the first round. I mean, if I'm not taking them in a series against Houston, Minnesota, Denver. We'll see what eventually happens. They still got some more time to change that narrative. But I did think that these last two wins for the Lakers might not mean anything, but it also means everything to them. Something to keep in mind as well. Usually when you're a heavily favored team and the other team's missing a lot of players, Lakers have also not done the best job in the world of winning those games convincingly. Nobody played over 30 minutes of their stars. So when you're going to have 6 games in 8 nights like the Lakers are about to run into, they've already started that. They're 2 games in. Then you want to give some of your players as much rest as possible. You want to give your players as much opportunity to, obviously not have to use everything they have. And there's been plenty of games we've watched the Lakers where they're supposed to win a game and guys are still playing 35 minutes and they're barely holding on at the end. And then they lose that second of a back-to-back because they didn't handle business. So I'll give the Lakers credit from that perspective. They did handle business. They led by as much as 30 against the Sacramento Kings. They led by as much as 30 against the Golden State Warriors. They took care of business, and both of those teams suck. They're terrible. Sacramento's awful. The Golden State Warriors aren't healthy, and that's just the reality of who the Lakers played, and we'll see if they could take advantage of that tomorrow. I got one of my topics here that I want to get into is, can the Lakers change the narrative? I want to play something from JJ Redick because yesterday post-game, he was talking a little bit about the double-digit wins, the back-to-back double-digit wins. And then he also kind of starts getting into this. He starts getting into this narrative about how the Lakers still got all these other teams in front of them that are in front of them that they still have opportunities to go try to stack up some W's. Now, how confident you feel that the Lakers are going to be able to do that, that's up to you. I'll give my opinion on that in just a second. But let's just at least listen to JJ Redick talking about the 2 wins and then, also kind of looking forward. Here's where they are in the standings. Here's some of the matchups they got coming up. Take a listen to JJ Redick.
The world has fallen for us, 19 times. It's just part of the nature of this cycle. And our guys have, like I talked about pregame, our guys have bounced back and responded well throughout the season. Tied in the loss column for 5th and a couple games out of 3rd. with, a number of these teams coming up that are right there with us. So we're going to keep plugging away.
All right, so that's JJ. I kind of disagree with a couple of things. You guys can tell me what you feel about this, but it's really difficult for me to look at the standings and put that much context to it. So right now, if you look at the standings, Lakers they're right in the thick of it. They're right in the heart of the Western Conference. What I mean by that, and can we actually, Eric, see if you can just put up the standings and put it up right next to me, and we could look at it together. The problem with the Lakers and looking at the standings is it does not tell the story and it doesn't tell the narrative of who the Lakers are. And they got, right in front of them, they're going to have a handful of games that I think is going to really kind of tell us whether the Lakers can change that narrative or they can't. But look at the standings here, and you guys can see just the difference between some of these teams in front of them. It ain't much. So Lakers sitting in the number 6 spot. Does that matter? Does it matter that they're only a couple games out from where the Houston Rockets are, 2 games in the loss column, and they could get up to the number 3 spot? The problem for me is looking at the standings. When you look at the standings, the problem is I think the standings don't tell the full story. The full story is, yeah, but how are you doing against teams that you would be facing if you face them in the playoffs? Because you can take advantage of a lot of bad teams. There's a lot of bad teams in the Western Conference this year. There's a lot of bad teams in the NBA. And we could take the standings off here, but there's a lot of bad teams in the league right now that the Lakers are really just kind of taking advantage of. But here's the thing in March that I'm going to pay most attention to, and I think it's the only thing that matters the rest of the way for me. There's one thing left for me talking about Lakers basketball the rest of the season. Yes, I could get into individual players. What's the big 3 look like? Does Austin Reaves play better the rest of the way? Can Deandre Ayton? We could look at all that stuff. But the only thing that matters to me, and I do think the Lakers need to have home court in the first round, all that stuff. But none of that stuff matters unless you start beating good teams. Let me show you what they have in the month of March. And I'm just going to list out some of these games that they have. And these are not in order, but it just shows you this is how you could change your narrative in the month of March. This is how people can start taking your team seriously in the month of March, because obviously it's not going to happen when you play Golden State and Sacramento. Here are some of the games that the Lakers have that I think are notable in the month of March. You got a game coming up at Denver. That's a critical, important game, not just because of the swing of, the standings, but because you're trying to prove to yourself that you can beat a good team, let alone a good team on the road. You got at Denver. You're home against the Knicks. The Knicks yesterday, whether the Knicks end up making the finals or not, they're good enough, they're talented enough to make the finals in the Eastern Conference. Yesterday, they snapped the San Antonio Spurs 10-game winning streak. You got the Knicks coming up on Sunday. You got the Minnesota Timberwolves coming up in a game. You host the Denver Nuggets. You got 2 games against the Houston Rockets. You play at Miami. You play at Orlando. You play at Detroit. You got a game against the Cavs on March 31st. It's not just, obviously there's going to be some layups in between these games, but that's 8-9 games in the month of March. Just here, this month of March, which I think they play 17 games, which is the highest amount, or 17 games in March. That might be the most amount of games they cram into a month during the whole season. But they're your tests. This is going to be why either Laker fans and people around the NBA are optimistic about, hey, the Lakers, maybe they can be dangerous. Or it's just going to be the same old story that it's been this entire season. Right now, there's nobody that covers the NBA, watches the NBA, or watches Lakers basketball, or is a fan of Lakers basketball. There's nobody that really, really takes the Lakers seriously. There isn't. And the reason why they don't take them serious is because they've proven time and time again when they play against good opponents that they can't give you consistent basketball. These games in March, can you slip in wow, that was an impressive win at Denver. Wow, they played really good against the Knicks at home and took care of business. Wow, I can't believe they, went to Houston and rolled up their sleeves and went to. It's going to take that type of performance in the month of March, I think, to change the narrative. And listen, they still got a chance to. Like, if I'm being completely honest with everybody, there's enough games left where I know there was a kind of a really, really, it probably annoyed people, whatever the case was, but there was a big storyline last week about JJ Redick basically saying there's still a work in progress. Everybody's like, what do you mean you're a work in progress? We're about to get to March. How can you still be a work in progress? Maybe that was after the Suns loss. I don't know when it was. But whenever it was, okay, well, if you're a work in progress, then does that mean that a lot of these games you've been losing to or teams above 500, you're going to be able to change that narrative? We're going to have to find out. But the standings to me doesn't mean as much anymore. The wins against teams below 500 doesn't mean much to me anymore. Individual performances, I'm not even really staring at. What I'm going to look at the most in the month of March, do you have meaningful wins or do you not? Do you have W's against teams, potential MVP players, one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, a team you could face in the first round of the Western Conference? Or are you still getting, beaten up like you have been in the past when you've gone up against some of these opponents? So that to me is probably the only narrative that means anything to me the rest of the way. Okay, we got a lot of comments that we're going to get into. So certainly want to do that. I know I'm sure a lot of people got their thoughts, their opinion on all these different topics that I hit on. Before I do so, give a shout out to one of our partners here, Harrah Resort SoCal. I think we've locked in a date. I think Lakers got a game April 2nd against the Oklahoma City Thunder at OKC. And I think we're going to do a post-game show from there. And I'm going to get you guys more and more details. We're going to have special rates for our listeners. But I really, really, really want to encourage and try to get as many people out there on a Thursday night to come join us and do a post-game show from there. Harrah Resort SoCal, for those that don't know all that much about the property, I'll tell you a little bit about it. Located in North San Diego, about 1 to 2 hours from wherever you are in Southern California. Phenomenal place for a staycation. Go look at the weather that we've had over these last couple of days. That's probably the weather we're going to have the rest of the way. That's just Southern California. Go take the family out there. Go take your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever the case is. Go hang out with a couple of friends. It's a phenomenal place to go to. They got the swim-up bar. They got the lazy river. They got Hell's Kitchen, which is the largest Hell's Kitchen in the country. They got the Rincon Brewery. I mean, I could go up and down the list of why you want to do a staycation there. It's just smarter to do it, by the way. You go pay for a staycation, or you go try to go book a trip somewhere. It's expensive to get flights. It's expensive to leave your car there. It's expensive to go rent a car. Just get in your car. Get out to Harrah Resort SoCal. It's one of the best properties in all of Southern California. HarrahSoCal.com is the website if you're looking to get some more information. But if you're actually looking to book, you got to go into the details of this video. Grab the link on there and get 20% off when you do book. Specific for our listeners, specific for this channel, you can get 20% off when you book through us. Again, just grab it, copy it, throw it in there, and it will go right to the dates that are available, and you'll see the 20% discount. There are some restrictions that apply, so keep that in mind here. Shout out to Harrah Resort SoCal, and shout out for them for being a partner of the show. Okay, let's look at some of the comments here. See what our people got to say. Are they yelling at each other? Are they singing Kumbaya? Let's see what we have here. Lakers got to go 7-3 in the next 10 to change the narrative. And unfortunately for the Lakers, they really haven't sold anybody that's something that they could do. But I am with you. I think there is a little bit here. And, 7-3 in the next 10 games, it's also who are you beating? You got this road game at Denver. You got this game against the Knicks at home. You got this game against the Minnesota Timberwolves at home. You got another game against Denver coming up. I mean, it's also who you beat. You could take advantage of the bad teams. Well, the bad teams are not the teams you're going to face in the postseason. 7-3 in this next 10 to change the narrative. And trust me, you guys know how this works with the Lakers. The moment the Lakers start winning games, there will be some pub that's going to the Lakers. There will be more positive talk around the Lakers. That just hasn't been the case. Let me see what else we got here. Teams see Lakers as a barometer game to tell if they're good or awful. I think there's no team that's looking at the Lakers as a barometer. I really don't. I think teams look at the Lakers and say, if you play a certain style against them, if you play a little bit of bully ball, if you give more effort than the Lakers, I think they look at the Lakers as, hey, here's a real chance to go get a W. And maybe they enjoy it more because they're playing the Lakers. Maybe they enjoy it more because it's LeBron, Luka, some of these other stars around the NBA. I don't think they look at the Lakers as a barometer game. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Barometer games are, you face San Antonio, you face New York, you're on the road at Denver. I mean, there's certain teams that I definitely think you got a barometer. I don't think that's a Lakers. Forget narrative. Just play better, win games regardless of what opponent's record is. Lakers have lost to teams with bad records. I disagree. I think you need some good wins under your belt. I think they almost got to convince themselves, like, hey, you know what? We can't actually beat a good team. Hey, you know what? We actually can't. Let me just take a kind of the last handful. I got to look at this. And I don't even think this is a good example. The last good win that the Lakers had, which I'm trying to guess off the top of my head, I think it was Philadelphia. And if you asked anybody, is Philly a real threat in the Eastern Conference? I don't think anybody's going to say that they're a real threat. So technically, that should not be a good win. Let me see here. What's the last good win that they got? Maybe if you want to say the Clippers, does that count? I don't think it does. Philly was the last good win that they have. I'm trying to find here. They beat the Denver Nuggets back. They beat them. It was at Denver, and that's when Jokic didn't play. I don't remember the last Lakers really good win. I don't think they have one. I mean, you really have to kind of stretch and look back. And just the fact that I don't know off the top of my head says everything. So I don't think it – I think it does matter who they win, not just they need to stack up wins. What does it matter if you're stacking up wins and it's against trash teams? It's kind of, we go back to the line I always say. It's like, all right, well, then the Lakers are just a fugazi. And I think everybody right now thinks they got a little bit of that in them. All right, a couple more comments here, and then we'll start looking at some of the other topics as well. No 7-3 if Braun takes his usual. Okay, all right. We knew this was coming at some point. At some point, that was going to come. Thank you for the super, by the way. I appreciate that. We'll spend all our efforts to move into fourth and then get swept by the fifth seed. All right. I love the 5 of Luka, Reaves, Kennard, Rui, and Hayes. Interesting. Yeah, I there's been a few people have told me that. That 5 looked like they were playing with joy and confidence like the start of the season. There's also something there, too. I think all those guys know their roles. I think all those players are willing to say, we'll roll up our sleeves and just go to work. I think all those guys know that Luka and AR are the 1 and 2 options. Rui certainly knows his role. Jackson Hayes is going to just give you energy, and he's a big man that you can have. Yeah, it's tough for me to highlight certain lineups because I need to see that against, again, I kind of go back to it, the good teams, and I don't want to keep hitting on that narrative. But for me, that's the thing that's the most important thing up to now. All right, I mentioned there was some video I wanted to share with everybody. So let's take a look at this video here real quick. Actually, let me get this one. This is from one of the members. Still got a lot of work to do. Glad for the win, by the way. Thank you for being a member, brother. We had somebody in the post-game show. I think it was Saturday night, became a new member, and then all of a sudden was gifting out 5 memberships. So shout out to I think it was B something. I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but I appreciate him doing that. I want to give credit to whoever has this video here. So let's find that one's not the one. Okay, so there is some video here, and this is during the Lakers and the Warriors game. So I mentioned that there was some video out there when the Lakers are playing the Golden State Warriors. So I'm listening to the broadcast. I'm listening to it on radio. It's the road broadcast. And somebody from the Golden State Warriors during their broadcast says, he's like, well, that's interesting. Luka does not. JJ Redick puts his hand out for a 5. Luka doesn't give him one. JJ follows him to the sidelines, and they look like they have a little bit of an exchange. And then he walks away, and then Luka stands up like he's going to go walk towards him, and then Vando kind of steps in the middle. So I'm asking myself before I play this, and I'm kind of prepping for the show, and I'm saying, do I play this? Like, I don't think, I haven't really heard anything. Nobody got asked any questions about it. But I think this video is just kind of more coming out in the last couple of hours. I don't think it's anything. I'm going to just be honest. I don't think it's anything. But I'll play it, and then you guys can tell me whether you think it's something as well. Didn't come up yesterday in the post-game show. Didn't come up in the pre-game show. Didn't come up at any point. None of that conversation came up. So I don't think it's anything, but let's just play the video. Here's JJ and Luka when he's getting subbed out during the Warriors game on Saturday night. All right. A little slow motion to make it. Okay. Okay. Little Luka action here. Luka kind of dodges JJ. JJ tries to get his hand. Not happening. He goes down to the sidelines. You guys can see the exchange here. So they're both staring at each other. JJ says something, walks away, says something. Luka gets up. Vando. Look at Vando boxing out. Look at Vando boxing out. Okay. That's the video. Listen, it's the Lakers. So there's always going to be attention that goes towards the Lakers. It's your head coach and a top 5 player in the world. So obviously there's a little bit of video there. For me, because nothing happened since, I don't think it's anything. The only thing that I will mention, and I think this goes to the Luka piece that we spent some time on last week. There are some areas of Luka that I'd like to see that shows a little bit more maturity. I mean, I don't think I'm breaking news here, but you guys have listened to me talk about Luka in the past. And I have said, I think Luka's got some foundational things inside of him, the bitching and the complaining and to the referees that are not championship qualities. I mean, every single game, he's got something to say to a referee 35 times. I hate it. I hate that style. And I think that's a very frustrating narrative, especially when the Lakers are losing. That's not leadership qualities. All right. Can you say something about that in this clip? I don't think so. Again, I just wanted to play the clip and then I'd let you guys kind of react to it. But the fact that we haven't heard anything about it, the fact that it has not become a story, the fact that every reporter's not asking JJ and Luka about it, I don't think it's anything. But it was kind of an interesting exchange, nationally televised game. Luka's like, well, I'm not dapping up my head coach. And then the coach has got to follow him to the sideline. Then they have to have an exchange. And then Jared Vanderbilt boxes out like no tomorrow. By the way, I will tell you this. If that was Rui there, he's probably not going to box out. He's probably not boxing out Luka. If it was Deandre Ayton, I know Ayton's not boxing out. Maybe earlier on, but Ayton would have let him just get right over to JJ Redick. Vando's a guy that boxes out. So shout out to Vando for boxing out. All right, let's see a few of the comments here. JJ is cooked. Okay. JJ should call him or any player out. He's the coach. Okay. I've been saying Luka doesn't respect JJ. Okay. By the way, listen, I at least you guys got some thoughts here. I'm if I'm being honest, my question when I was going to play the video, I'm like, is this a stretch here? I don't think it is. I think it's worth showing the video, and then we could obviously make our own determination. This one's interesting here. This one, the JJ should call him or any player out. He's the coach. I don't disagree with that. I really don't. I think there's some times where they're overly protective of Luka, overly protective. And I think there are some times where Luka doesn't. Guys, this doesn't mean Luka's not the present and the future of the Lakers. It doesn't mean he's not a top 5 player in the league. It doesn't mean he's not the absolute man. I mean, it doesn't mean Luka's the man. Like, there's nobody here sitting to argue that Luka's not the man. Luka also has some very immature moments as an NBA basketball player. You're going to be the head of the snake of a franchise and an organization. So show some leadership qualities. Don't pout. Don't do any of that stuff. And if that's been a part of his game, people are like, well, that's just who he is. All right. There's plenty of people that have had characteristics that weren't the best, and over time learned from them. And then all of a sudden, that's not their character and who they are. They became a better person out of it. It's not like Luka can't change. But I think this point about the JJ, call him, he's able to call him or any player out. Of course you're supposed to. Maybe you don't do it publicly. Maybe you do it more privately, but of course he should be able to. And to go back to this, listen, JJ doesn't have a track record in the NBA where he can kind of say, well, look at my resume. As an NBA head coach, JJ still doesn't have a track. There's nothing on the resume. He had I thought he had a really good first season with the Lakers. Really good. 50 freaking wins. The trade in the middle of the season. 3rd place in the Western Conference. He got out-coached like no tomorrow in the playoffs. Now this year, you're kind of watching how the season has unfolded. I mean, last week, how many times had I said he's getting out-coached? I don't think the players are playing hard for him. I'm watching other teams who are playing a lot. Their players are playing a lot harder for them. Go watch the Phoenix Suns in a game. Go watch the Boston Celtics in a game. Those freaking players will run through a wall for their head coach. That doesn't seem to be the narrative for the Lakers with JJ. At times they are, but most of the times, it's like I said, I've given this example before. Lakers aren't looking for they're not looking for a fight. They want to sip on some tea and they want to make sure everything's going okay, and they don't want any beef with anybody. All right, let's get a couple more in here. Luka's not happy, lost all faith in his coach. Redick is history. Not a good look. These are good comments. Luka pouts like a child. I think Luka hasn't matured since he was 18 years old. These are all good comments. I think the comments are much better than my analysis. Maybe I should do less time talking and just than read the comments. This is the only one that says it's normal. I don't think it's normal. I don't. I think that. I don't think it's normal. I think it was. I think it was a little odd. But again, just the mere fact that nothing's been said after makes me think it's nothing. All right. Let's see what else we have here. Who's going to call out JJ then? I'll tell you who's going to call out JJ. Every fan and every media member on a kind of night in, night out basis. Listen, I think JJ's getting his fair share of criticism. I think there's the conversation of a lot of people talk about new ownership and Rob Pelinka and all this other stuff. I think we've got a chance to see a little bit of the part of where JJ's not promised anything moving forward. We'll see what happens. I mean, they did give him an extension before the season started, which makes no sense to me. Honestly, it'd be more concerning if Luka didn't acknowledge JJ at all in the moment. True. Okay. At least we got that video in, and at least we got to kind of share a little bit of a narrative here. All right, let's keep moving here. There's a video that I want to play for everybody. And if I told you guys what was one of the biggest storylines last week and what was one of the biggest storylines kind of going into the weekend around the Lakers, there was a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was the losses. It was how you're losing, teams over 500, the loss to the Phoenix, all that stuff, right? But one of the biggest storylines was Deandre Ayton. Oh, my God. This guy got crucified last week. And, I spent a lot of time on this show. For me, the thing that kind of set everything off is when we saw the video, or when we saw the article of Dave McMenamin. And the article, again, was more about how the Lakers will go as DeAndre Ayton goes. I'm like, yeah, if you wrote that article in November, I would believe it. But you can't write that article in late February, early March. I kind of already know what I got from DeAndre Ayton. Everybody crucified him about what he said about Clint Capela. Over the weekend, it didn't change. It kind of continued. You guys saw all the comments. If you guys watched Inside the NBA that aired before halftime and after the game, Lakers and the Warriors, Charles Barkley, Shaq, they're ripping on DeAndre Ayton as well. What did he say? He said, you can't call out your team. Shaq said, you can't call out your team and have 2 points at the half, champ. Something along those lines. Ayton went through a stretch where he had 6 points over 2 games. This was a little bit different of a angle here that I want to play for everybody. You guys remember role player in the NBA for a number of years, Austin Reaves. Okay. Listen, he got bashed so much over these last couple of days. And I'm sure not that many people have anything positive to say about DeAndre Ayton. Austin Reaves found a way to do it. I'm going to give Austin Reaves credit here for doing that. Take a listen to Austin Reaves. He's got kind of a message I think he was indirectly trying to give to DeAndre Ayton. I got a thought on it as well, and then we'll go from there. Take a listen to Austin Reaves.
Your role. Knowing your role can change your life. God, I wish I knew some of this stuff earlier, man. I'd still be playing now. But it's too late. Perception has been built, right? DeAndre Ayton, your comments about Clint Capela. I don't need to go into that, man. And I'm not here to bash you or say what you're not or what you can't do. You were a good player for Phoenix Suns, a pivotal role in their finals runs. I got nothing but respect for you. But you have to understand who you are now. Doing so can add years to your career and make you a lot more money. Okay? You saying you're not no damn Clint Capela, man, you need to be. You need to be a force running.
He goes on, and the stretch, there's a kind of a couple minutes there, but I just want to get the meat of it. I thought with Austin Reaves there, he tried to explain something that I don't think a lot of people, including myself, are trying to explain to DeAndre Ayton, or maybe they're just sick of trying to explain it to him. I love what he said about, man, if I would have known my role earlier in my career and just understood exactly what I was. And by the way, Austin Reaves was never a talent like DeAndre Ayton is and was, or whatever the case is. But I thought he explained something, and I don't know if anybody's going to get through to DeAndre Ayton. And maybe it'll take a couple of years. Maybe it'll be too late before DeAndre Ayton realizes that, man, if I want to have X amount of years left in this league, I got to play a specific role. You see, DeAndre Ayton is not playing a role for the Lakers. DeAndre Ayton is trying to play what he feels like is in his best interest. What he doesn't understand, or he doesn't realize at this point, is what's in his best interest is to play that role for the Lakers. Unfortunately, he has not excelled at that role. Unfortunately, the Lakers never answered their center spot, the hole that's been there, obviously, since Anthony Davis has been gone. That still hasn't been answered. And the plug that they thought they can, plug in and get at such a discount from the Portland Trailblazers. You know what's fascinating? I find it fascinating. I had Bill Orm on, who covers the Blazers. I had Dwayne Rankin on that covers the Suns. I'm not kidding. If you go back, we go through all these different questions. When I bring up DeAndre Ayton to each one of these individuals, one who covered the Suns, who's covered the Suns since DeAndre Ayton was a rookie, the other one that covered the Blazers for a couple of years when he was there. When I brought up DeAndre Ayton, you just look at their face, there's a smirk that starts kind of creating on their faces where they're basically saying, yeah, what did you think you were going to get when you got DeAndre Ayton with the Lakers? This is who he is. I thought Austin Reaves, it almost kind of like a heart-to-heart of, can this player just find a way to get out of his own way? We all run into this, right? We're stubborn. We think that we know everything, that whatever somebody else says, you're a parent wants to say something, a parent wants to say something, or a partner wants to say something. Somebody wants to say something to you, and you're too stubborn in your own head, and you don't want to take any of their advice. Man, I wish Ayton would take some people's advice. I'm sure the Lakers are trying to say it to him. I'm sure other people are trying to say it to him. Hopefully his agent is trying to explain it to him. He's got a month and a half to figure out whether he's got a future in this league or he doesn't. It doesn't mean this is going to be his last year in the NBA. It doesn't mean that, this is it for DeAndre Ayton, but what a critical stage for the rest of his career. Because like I said, with the Lakers are trying to change his narrative, there are individual players that are also trying to change their narrative. And DeAndre Ayton is one of those players right now. Ayton's going to try to change his narrative based off of what he does over the last month and a half. And if he's still the same player, which I have no reason to believe that he's not going to be the same player, I have no reason to believe that he's not going to, kind of continue this trajectory in the wrong direction. I have no reason to believe otherwise. But I thought that was a little bit kind of unique of a clip because everybody is bashing him, and that wasn't his goal. His goal was to say, man, if you could just look at this perspective a little bit differently, you could be in this league for another 5, 7, 8. He's only 26 years old. I mean, I don't know how many more years Ayton's going to be in the NBA, but is Ayton in the NBA by the time he's 30? It doesn't feel like it's going in that direction. 30. How many players have played till they're 35? How many number one picks are out there that got his skill set and could potentially not be in the league? Not because of health, but because you turn on that motor whenever you feel like it. You do what you want to do, not what the team needs you to do. So it's going to be an interesting narrative as we come to the end here for Deandre Ayton in this final month and a half of the season. It's funny, on Friday, I'm over at I'm at the Wallace firm. I'm doing my show there. Brad Wallace comes on. You guys know he's a big Laker fan. And he's trying to sell. He's like, no, you should feed Ayton more. No, you should give Ayton the ball more. No, you should try to highlight as best as you can Ayton over this last month and a half. Do you know why he was saying that? His hope is that Ayton plays good enough the rest of the way that he's not with the Lakers next year because he has that player option. Not that it's in the best interest of the Lakers long term, but he's thinking in his head, we got to get Ayton off this team off. We got to get Ayton off the roster by the time this year is done. And the only way they're probably going to be able to do that is if Ayton plays well the rest of the way. So root for Ayton, not only because you need him the rest of this year, but also because you don't want him to pick up his player option because clearly he's not the future of the Los Angeles Lakers. I think that part is easy to say. I'm going to take a look at everybody's comments here in just a second. Before I do so, speaking of Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm, injury attorneys that can help anybody in the state of California. Got a URL that we created, wallacewins.com/Sliwa. If you go to that website, get a 100% absolutely free consultation. The biggest message I want to get across when I talk about Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm, I just want to say this. If you fill out the form, you will get an opportunity for them to kind of just guide you in the right direction. Maybe they can't help you. Maybe what it is that they specialize in and what you need, that doesn't mix well. He will put you in touch with the right people. I've had other people hit me up on Instagram. People have reached out to him directly. Not all of them are a case that makes sense for Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm, but here's what he will do. He will make sure that you're taken care of, that you're in good hands, and just use him as a resource. Hopefully nobody ever needs an injury attorney, but if you do, you know where to go. Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm, wallacewins.com/Sliwa. A big fan of the channel, big supporter of the channel, and I can't thank him enough for being with us. This is his second year since I've gone independent. He's still here with me and was with me when I was on radio as well. Shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm for their partnership, and shout out to all our listeners as well who have supported our partners. All right, let's take a look at some of the comments. I'm always interested when Ayton comes up. I feel like people get very, very passionate here. Lakers always have a fall guy. So is the conversation here the fall guy is Ayton? I don't know. Do they have a fall guy, or is this kind of like I think he hasn't been anywhere near the player that most people thought he was going to be able to be. Got potential. I think the fact that he's kind of playing for a contract, I think everything kind of the stars lined up for Deandre Ayton. The biggest issue with Deandre Ayton is he's basically telling you, yeah, I'll do this for you, but you got to do this for me. Ayton, you don't got that pool, brother. You don't got that pool. There's certain players that have leverage. You don't have leverage. Luka can do whatever he wants. He's got leverage. LeBron had leverage. So even LeBron James doesn't have the leverage he used to have. And this guy is a walking billion-dollar corporation everywhere he goes. Even he doesn't have leverage right now. So your leverage is everything, and he clearly doesn't have leverage right now. I personally think too much emphasis is being placed on Deandre. He is what he is at this point. Why are people so upset? We really should be talking about Austin Reaves and his future fit with Luka in LA. I got some stats I'm going to share with everybody in regards to Austin Reaves, so don't worry about that. I think the reason why the Ayton thing came into play is only because Ayton was kind of calling out the team that they're not using him the right way. And then he went out there and said, they want me to be a Clint Capela, which I think really rubbed people the wrong way. I think if Ayton said nothing, it wouldn't have been as big of a storyline. But I think that article kind of, it amplified a lot on the Deandre Ayton topic. So that's what I think happened. That's what I think happened. All right, let's get a couple more in here. This is what growing up is. Life choices. No one can tell you what you won't hear. Nobody wants to be Clint Capela. I wish we had Clint Capela over Deandre Ayton. Tell you that right now. Clint Capela's putting up more numbers with the Rockets. Let's see. Let me see a couple more in here. Ayton is the problem, not LeBron. Got it? Ayton is the big man version of D'Lo. Wow. Damn, that's a good comp. I like that comp right there. Ayton is the big man version of D'Lo. Oh, I couldn't stand when D'Lo was on this team. Oh, my gosh, I couldn't stand it. D'Lo walking around like he's freaking Gary Payton. Walking around like he's a top 5 point guard in the NBA. I'm like, D'Lo, you're not even good, brother. You're not even good. Why are you that confident? You're not that good. That's a good one. That's a good one right there. Okay, let's keep moving here because I got a couple of the topics I want to get into. Then we'll get into NBA news, get a weekend recap in here. We'll call it a Monday. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Shout out again. I mentioned it earlier in the show. The rest of the season, the plan is to, when we go live, we're also live on AM 570's YouTube. So if you're here from AM 570, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Obviously, we have our regulars that are always here. But if you're coming on here through AM 570, thank you for doing so. Part of kind of our iHeart partnership that we have. And we'll probably be adding more platforms in here. I'm pretty sure we'll be adding Facebook and Instagram and everything else. So we'll try to get as many platforms on here. I know the way people consume these shows, they'll be on any platform. So we're trying to accommodate as best as we can. Austin Reaves. Can we talk Austin Reaves here real quick? I want to, somebody had mentioned it. One of the other comments here, I don't know if I could find it, but somebody had mentioned, why are we spending this much time on Austin Reaves? We should be talking about Austin Reaves. And let's see if I could find it. Yeah, this one here. This is the one. We should be talking about Austin Reaves' future fit with Luka. Well, let's not even do the future fit. Let's just do where he is right now. I got some stats here I'm going to share here with everybody. Austin Reaves right now, we knew when Austin Reaves, LeBron, and Luka are on the floor together, there's going to be some players that have to sacrifice. And I'm not surprised. I think the player that does have to sacrifice the most is Austin Reaves because Luka's not going to sacrifice. They're going to ask Luka do the same. Whether you agree, disagree, whatever the case is, Luka's going to have the ball in his hands all the time, period. There's no other conversation. LeBron is LeBron at this point, and I think LeBron can adjust his game. He's got the ability to adjust his game. He's obviously played off the ball now for over a year or so, and he's able to do more things than an Austin Reaves player is able to. LeBron is still able to kind of fill up the stat line. He'll get his 22, 24 points a game, 20 points a game. He'll end up with 6, 7 rebounds, 6, 7 assists. That's kind of LeBron. It's Austin Reaves that's the one that's going to have to sacrifice the most. Since he came back, I want to point out a couple of stats from here. Okay. Pre-injury, post-injury. Austin Reaves right now is averaging 12 field goal attempts per game since returning back from his injury. He's averaging 18 points a game, 3.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists. 11 games he's played 11 games out of a possible 13 for the Lakers. They're 7-4 in those 11 games since he's come back. So Austin Reaves, since post-injury, 18.7 points a game, 3.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists. Pre-injury, he was taking 16 shots a game, not 12 like he's taking now, 26.5 points a game, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. I mean, his numbers have really, really significantly dropped off since he came back from the injury. Now, some of that I think has to do with Luka and LeBron being in the lineup together. Here's my question here on the Austin Reaves front. And I know people do want to talk about, well, what's the offseason going to look like? What are you going to pay him in the offseason? You can't have these types of stats and justify paying a player $40 million, all of that. That's fine. But I don't want to have that conversation today because I don't think that conversation is relevant. I think the right time to have that conversation is the regular season is done. Find out what he does the rest of the way. Find out what he does in the playoffs. And then, trust me, there'll be plenty of time and plenty of conversations to be had about Austin Reaves' future with the Lakers, fit with Luka Doncic. How much money do you want to go there? Guys, that's going to be arguably, if not the biggest topic in the offseason, it will be one of the biggest topics, right? So we have plenty of time to have that entire conversation. The bigger conversation right now is, how do you get Austin Reaves closer to some of those stats that he had? Listen, forget doesn't have to have 26.5 points a game. And by the way, you're not going to have 26.5 points a game shooting 12 shots. But can the guy get 16 to 18 shot attempts a game? Remember how much he was living at the free throw line? Remember how much he was drawing fouls? Remember how much he was orchestrating the offense for the Lakers as well? The biggest stat that's most disappointing to me for Austin Reaves since he came back from his injury, where's that playmaker? And if the idea is, well, the guy never has the ball in his hands, I actually don't think that's a good game plan. I think the Lakers become way too predictable. Might have to sneeze here. I think the Lakers become way too predictable when the ball is just in Luka's hands. I think they're actually at their biggest threat when you don't know if Luka's going or AR's going, when there is more movement with the Lakers. We talked about this. ISO ball is just a recipe for disaster. It ain't going to work in the NBA. The Lakers do way too much ISO ball. But they got to also find ways to get some of his shot attempts up. He's got to find ways, and whether he's not getting foul calls or not, to stop trying to draw fouls and just try to get to the basket, trying to get buckets in. But let me just tell you something right now. If Austin Reaves is giving you 12-shot field goal attempts a game, and he's averaging 18.5, 3 assists and 3 rebounds a game, or 3.5 and 3.5, they ain't getting out of the first round. Austin Reaves is too critical of a player for them that if he's just basically just a role player, and I'm talking about just a player that, yes, he's the third best player on the team, or his significance, if it keeps declining, Lakers aren't getting out of the first round. They're going to need more from Austin Reaves. And I don't even think it's all on Austin Reaves. That's why we've had the conversation of, can you put Austin Reaves in a position where he's more of a focal point? Can you put him in a position where he's able to orchestrate some stuff as well? Yes, I get it. Luka's on the team, but if you're telling me that's going to be his stats and that's going to be his contributions, then I'm going to start leaning towards the conversation that we've had and a lot of other people have had on here. Well, you clearly can't pay a player $40 million a year if that's going to be, the way that you're using him. Of course, that's going to change in the offseason. Of course, if LeBron's not here next year, that narrative changes completely. But they're going to need more from Austin Reaves. And I think part of that responsibility is also on the shoulders of JJ Redick and the rest of the team, because I don't think Austin Reaves is a selfish player. I think he's going to do what's in the best interest of the team, which is opposite of what, obviously Deandre Ayton is probably thinking in his head. But they're going to need a lot more from him. I mean, those stats, to have 8 less points a game, 4 less field goal attempts a game, to have your rebounds cut in half, your assists cut in half, all since him coming back from the injury, that's wild. That's wild to obviously see. I know there's some reasons for it, but that's going to be something that obviously is going to be a key piece for the Lakers the rest of the year. And I do understand where people are coming from when they have that conversation. Let's take a look at some of the comments. How many shot attempts does LeBron average since AR has been back? It's relevant because you can't say he's 41, leave him alone, but give him more shots. I don't think there's any conversation to say that he's 41, leave him alone. I think if he's on the floor and he's making $52 million, you have to be critical of LeBron as well. I don't disagree with that. I think it's fair to be critical of LeBron. I think the question with LeBron is he can do things that is off the ball. He can do things where, I guess you could call it maybe more of a Draymond Green role. He can do multiple things, even though he's a lot better than Draymond Green, of course, offensively. Where AR, it's kind of more, unfortunately, it's a little bit more, I need the ball in my hands, and that's the only way I'm going to be the most effective player that I can be. Now, the LeBron average, how many is he averaging shot attempts? To be honest with you, probably still the same amount, which I'll lean with you on this one. I think everybody's shot attempts got to come down a little bit so that AR can also feel like he's part of the offense and be the best version of himself. I think Luka's shot attempts should come down. I think LeBron's shot attempts should come down. I think Marcus Smart's shot. In order for the Lakers to maximize who they are, they're going to need the best version of Austin Reaves. And it will take some sacrificing from others so that Austin Reaves can be the best version of himself. The problem with Austin Reaves, too, is he's not shooting at nearly as an efficient pace as he was, earlier in the season. And listen, if basically what's happening is this, if basically it's like, well, he needs the ball in his hands, then we got a problem because somebody else is already going to have the ball in their hands for most of the game. It's going to be Luka. So they got to figure out how to balance that out. And that's why I've kind of said, well, why don't you just try different things? If part of the thing you have to try is bring AR off the bench, which I think most of us believe is not going to happen, but if that's in the best interest of the team, then you got to try it. All right, let me squeeze in a couple more comments here, and then we'll keep going. So, John 1, thank you for the super brother. I know you got a couple off here, so thank you for doing that. Totally agree with you, Slee. So obvious how much less they are involving AR. He is one of the most efficient shooters we have. Makes no sense why he hasn't been shooting and playmaking more. He's got to be more of a playmaker. He's a good playmaker. I think one of the more underrated pieces of Austin Reaves' game is his ability to get others involved as well. He's not a selfish player. I like Austin Reaves on the ball. Again, but I go back to it. There's going to have to be some give and take, and there's going to have to be some sacrifice from a lot of these guys in order for them to get the best version of Austin Reaves as well. All right. Let me get into NBA News Weekend Recap. I'll close out the show reading a few more comments. It's a good way to start out the week on a Monday. I got a Luke Kennard topic. I'm going to save it for tomorrow. I don't want to rush through it. JJ had a lot of positive things to say about Luke Kennard. I think he's been such a phenomenal addition to the Lakers. I want to give Rob Pelinka some credit on that as well. We'll do that tomorrow. We'll talk a little Luke Kennard. Weekend recap, of course, is presented by the Wallace firm. Go to wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Free consultation if you go to that website. All right, quick recap. Knicks blow out the Spurs yesterday, 114-89. I said they snapped the Spurs' 10-game winning streak. My bad, they snapped their 11-game winning streak. This was an important game yesterday as well, something to keep in mind. The Timberwolves going to Denver and getting a W. Guys, I don't know if I'm overreacting to this, but it could just be the case. Without Aaron Gordon, the Nuggets are just not the Nuggets. I mean, it could be just as simple as that. Minnesota goes on the road yesterday. That's a big win. 117-108 over Denver. So you had a couple really good games in the NBA yesterday. One of them was not the Lakers and the Sacramento Kings. Might be the most boring game I've ever watched in my life. Anthony Edwards, 21. They had how many people? Jesus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in double figures for Minnesota. So not enough help with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. I think a very simple narrative when it comes to the Denver Nuggets. If Aaron Gordon's not healthy, they're in some real trouble. A couple other stories around the NBA. Steph Curry will be reevaluated, will be sidelined at least 10 more days, 5 more games. He talked during the Laker game, and it looks like, he wasn't anywhere near coming back. So he's still dealing with stuff. I think it's almost a wrap for the Golden State Warriors. I mean, I don't know what you want me to tell you, but I don't know how they're going to get back into the mix. We'll see what eventually happens. Only other story that I have, James Harden. He says, if I can dribble, I can play. He's dealing with an injury as well since he went to Cleveland. They obviously got to have him healthy. See what happens in regards to all of that. All right, those are some of the NBA stories. I was looking at some of the games for tonight. Might have to just stay away from the NBA tonight. Maybe Celtics, Bucks, maybe Nuggets, Jazz, Clippers, Warriors. I mean, there's just no good games tonight. Turn off NBA TV. Turn off your league pass tonight. Just, I don't know. Watch old highlights from years ago. I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing good tonight. Let me get a last couple of comments in, and then we're going to call it a day. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Let's get this super. Thank you, Savage. Thank you, Savage, man. Savage, I appreciate you. Savage, you just bought me coffee for the week. I appreciate you. Like you said yesterday, Slee, he should at least have 20 points. And for reference, it takes Shea 29 shots and 12 free throws just to hit 36. And people want to do all that on 12 on perfect efficiency. He's not taking enough shots, not involved enough. I'm going to kind of back up Reaves on this one. And I only say this because I think the higher his individual stats are, the better chance the Lakers have of winning games. So that's the only reason why I'm mentioning this. The more Austin Reaves is involved as a playmaker and as a scorer, the better chance the Lakers have to win. Savage, I appreciate the 10 spot, brother. Very nice of you. Very, very kind of you. We did talk about this yesterday in the post-game show because people were going at Austin Reaves. Listen, he also doesn't look like the same player, period. And pre-injury, post-injury, critical stage of the season, I know he's an unselfish player, but there are times where I want to see Austin Reaves be a little bit more selfish. And if he's just getting locked down from other teams, that's a whole different conversation. Obviously, that happens a lot as well. Tomorrow's a good example. They play the Pelicans. They got some real 3-and-D players there that are going to be trying to lock up a guy like Austin Reaves and Luka. How successful they'll be, we'll have to wait and see. All right, one or two more comments, and then we're done. Austin shooting almost 50% from the field. That's unheard of for a point guard. How is that not efficient? I'll tell you. Let me tell you. I got you. Don't worry. I did some of these stats yesterday in regards to Austin Reaves. Let me see here. I'm going to give you Austin Reaves' last 5 games. Again, just a kind of a 5-game sample size is the best way that I can put it. But here's Austin Reaves over the last 5 games. And this is what I'm referring to when I'm talking about Austin Reaves and his efficiency. Austin Reaves in the last 5 games, he shot 33% from the field yesterday, 63% from the field against the Warriors, 41% from the field against Phoenix, 37% from the field against Orlando, 40% against Boston. He's not the same Austin Reaves right now. He's not. That's what I mean by his efficiency. He's having more games now where he's well below that 50% mark. So that's what I'm referring to. Are we done? Is that good? I think we're good. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of the show. Thank you very much. Please subscribe to the channel. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. We're doing the show Monday through Friday. We're doing a post-game show reaction after every game as well. Help us get to 35,000 subscribers. We'd greatly appreciate that. Shout out to everybody that's on the show, on the channel. Back on tomorrow morning, starting at 8 a.m. Post-game show tomorrow after the Lakers take on the Pelicans. Have a great rest of your Monday. I'll see you guys in the morning. And have a good rest of your day.